Are you out of the country and you're stuck, but you're married to a Thai spouse and they've said you can come back, but it's totally confusing, you don't know what to do? I can help you out. Check this out. Hey, JC here. I just wanted to let you know we do have some information that's going to help you out today if you're married to a Thai and you're trying to get back into the country, because you are allowed. Before I get into that, I just wanted to mention I am also cognizant and working on trying to help people that are stuck outside the country with a non-immigrant visa that they got within Thailand and have a one-year extension based on retirement. Y'all are being ignored, and I'm aware of that. And I'm probably going to reach out and do a video to the powers to be and say, listen, you know, you gave permission to these people to make this their home, Thailand, and they moved their belongings. This is their home now. Their finances are here, and they're not being addressed to be able to be allowed to come back into Thailand. So I am aware of that, and I'm going to try and help you all out. But on our member site, we've been helping out members who have Thai spouses, one of which is now today actually getting out of quarantine. Yay! So I helped him go through the process when he was back in the States. Now this is going to apply to almost everywhere. You might have to switch out a little bit of information, but he was back in the States, helped him to get over here, and got on the phone with him and did an interview with him that we're going to share with you all. I think it's going to be really helpful. But Brad was nice enough to put a detailed document together showing step by step what he did, how he did it. Because if you go on like the Washington, D.C. website and you say, oh, there's only 4 steps, just do this, this, and this. But you look at it and go, which one do I do first? What's the order of It's a little bit convoluted, to say the least. So Brad put together this great document, and I'll put a link to it down below, and it'll help you go through step by step how to actually get over here if you have a Thai spouse. Now, back to the non-immigrant with a one-year extension that they got within Thailand. Again, I am aware of this. I'm going to try and help you all out. And actually, I contacted Washington, D.C.'s Thai embassy and went back and forth 3 times, being very specific each time, saying, and they kept saying, yeah, non-immigrant O visas can come back except for the ones who are using it for volunteer. Now, on the drop down when you go to get the certificate of entry, it doesn't have non-immigrant that qualifies for retirees. So I reached out to them and said, listen, which drop down do you use? Because they're not OA, which are allowed, they're not OX that are allowed. And they said, as long as you have a valid visa and a valid reentry permit and you're not on volunteer status, they could come over. Now, that's all I can tell you. I haven't tried to do it. I don't have members that have reached out and actually attempted to do this, but you might try. Also on a forum, somebody said the Vancouver Thai embassy or consulate said that those people could come back over. So you might want to reach out and give it a try and see what happens, but they're not being addressed, and I am aware of that, and I'm going to try and help those out as well. But our member site has been helping out the people that have Thai spouses, and many of them have been waiting to get over. So there you go. We'll give you this information. We'll give you the interview, which I think will be helpful. And again, the document that Brad was helpful enough and nice enough to share will be, the link will be in the description, so you can check that out. And remember, when it comes to trying to get back into Thailand, if you're married, there's an option. And I'll be coming back with you soon with more videos. And if you're looking for some camaraderie and need questions answered and to be able to share things, I got some really cool news, some exciting news coming that might help you all out. But think about becoming a part of our RC Asia family as well. And the link will be in the description there too. JC out. See ya. Check out the interview. All right. So I'm here with our member, Brad, who made it over. And this is what you're seeing is his background of what officially a quarantine looks like. You look good for being in quarantine, Brad.
Yeah, feeling good. Yeah, getting a lot of exercise in the room, and and they allow walks out in the garden, which is very beautiful. So it's okay. Everything's fine. The food's good. Everybody's very nice. So it's not too bad. Not too bad at all.
And so when you go out to exercise, do you have to have a mask on while you exercise?
Yes. Yeah, you're required to have a mask, and you are supposed to keep at least a 1 meter distance between people. And I actually met someone here from France, and so we actually do walks together, and
oh, cool.
we talk, and so making a friend or two here, and the time seems to be going fairly quickly. So all in all, it's been a fairly positive experience.
And when you eat in the dining room there, of course you don't have a mask on while you're eating. Is everybody social distance? Like if somebody comes with their spouse, can they sit and eat with their spouse?
Well, actually, all our meals are in our rooms, in our hotel rooms. The meals are delivered to our door, and then they're on a tray, and then we just bring the trays in and eat. Prior to before the second day, they gave us a list of the different meals that they have. There's 2 choices for each time of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you choose the meal, and then they just bring it, and they bring little snacks, and there's also room service. So if you want to order like a club sandwich or a cappuccino or some specialty drink, you can do that too. So there's a lot of options, very many options.
Oh, so, great. Cool.
But generally the meals are so filling that I haven't had to order anything extra. So it's been really
good. And are
good.
you eating, do they give you the menu you can choose from what you want to eat?
Yeah, there's, it's typically Western-based meals or Thai-based. So you can order one or the other for each of the meal times.
Which one are you opting for?
Both. I get a little of both. This morning I had Thai. It was actually really delicious. I actually saved some of it because it was so good. It's those little chicken balls in the kind of a creamy rice.
Oh wow!
And
yeah.
it was just so delicious. I had to keep it. I didn't eat it all. So
I like that with the toasted garlic that they serve sometimes. It's really tasty.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, really I wanted everybody. First of all, you are here, and there's other people that want to come that are retirees but aren't married to Thais, but your situation, I just wanted you to go over briefly how you ended up in this position, what got you interested in Thailand, how many times have you been here already, and why at this point in time you're now in Thailand, and what prompted you to do so.
Well, I met my wife about 10 or 11 years ago now, and we met through a mutual friend who had a Thai wife who was living in Bangkok, and we started to get to know each other online. And then I believe it was 2009. I made was it 2009, 2010? I can't remember the exact year, but I made my first trip to Thailand, which was an adventure in itself because I've never been outside of the United States except for Canada and a little bit in Mexico. So it was a major change for me, and I came to Thailand, and then after that I flew back and decided that we wanted to pursue a deeper relationship. So I went ahead and worked on her citizenship, or together we worked on our citizenship. And so the next year I flew back to Thailand and picked her up, and then she flew back with me, and we have been living in the States for the last about 9 years, 8 to 9 years. Wow. And she was able to get work, and then we started flying to Thailand. I would fly to Thailand almost every year for about 3 months, and then she would stay back for another couple months and then come back, and then we'd continue that cycle for the next several years. And we were working on her citizenship, and then the last December we both flew to Thailand, and then of course the COVID situation hit, and then I flew back in February, and she stayed back, but then she got kind of stuck in Thailand because they had closed down the country, and so it was very difficult and not impossible for her to get back. So what happened was I got sort of a prompting. We'd always talked about retiring to Thailand, at least a major part of the year, if not full time. And we were kind of giving ourselves a 3-year timeline. And but because of situations that I was seeing happening in the United States, and also the COVID issue and other things going on in my own life, I decided to move up those cycles. And so I basically initiated my move to Thailand, and then it was fairly stressful, I have to admit, but finally made it here, and so here we are, up to date. I'm in my quarantine, and I just have a few more days, and then I'll be out, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Well, I hope I was helpful in some of the process or some of the things you needed to accomplish to get over here and get yourself into quarantine.
I wanted to thank you, because I had been a member this whole time, and so of course I was keeping up on most of the weekly updates and all the information provided. And then I also subscribed to your 30-day move, which was very helpful. Yeah. There was a great checklist, so if anybody's interested in coming out, I'd recommend pursuing that subscription that JC has for the step-by-step. And what happens is he sends you, or your I guess it's unlocked. You get every day you get a checklist, and I didn't follow everything every day, and some of the things didn't apply to me, but that's okay, because it was pretty it was a pretty complete document as far as anybody who's, like, for example, people who have pets. Like, I don't have a pet, but things like that are covered, and every little detail that you can possibly imagine is covered, and it really gets you thinking and really helps you to move forward in a pretty substantial, pretty rapid way, getting things done. So I do appreciate that. That was a good move.
Yeah, I might have to adapt that in the future. If I always consider that things will go back to normal and everything will be, because it talks a little bit about the visa, and it was a very simple process before all this, but now it's gotten a bit complicated. And speaking of that, we have some members that are sitting in the U.S., Wayne and James, and a bunch of people, members that are thinking or waiting to come over, and some feel that it's a really complicated procedure. And you gave me a document that I'm going to share with the members and embed it in so they can download it in the weekly update. They went through your process and what you had to do in the chronological order. There's a lot of details to this. And so I'll go ahead and put the document so they can get all the details. But overall, what was the process you had to go from the time you said, okay, and the timeline of, okay, I'm going to meet her, as opposed to her coming back to the States, I'm going to go to Thailand. From that point, you lead us through the process and how it went.
Well, first of all, I decided to sell my home and sell all my furniture. I basically cashed out. I have a couple rental homes, which I'm in the process of selling now, but basically I'm, because of my personal situation, I decided just to cash everything out rather than keeping a residence here. And I'm using my daughter's address for a mailing address for getting mail forwarded, US-based mail forwarded there. But the process when I first started looking into the whole process, it really did seem overwhelming. It really did. And JC had you had a lot of great answers, and were able to help a lot with some of my the conundrums I felt myself falling into. And generally it's complicated, and some of the things that I found out and the timing that I found I had to fall into some of the things I found out was just by pure luck, just by talking to someone at the airlines. For example, I called the airlines because I was trying to get one of the few repatriation flights that are listed on the in the online Washington D.C. Thai embassy form, and so I was trying to figure out, well, how can I get one of these airlines? And so I just happened to call one of the airlines, talk to one of the ladies there, the booking agents, and she just happened to mention Hana Travel Agency is the only government-approved travel agency to book the repatriation flights, and I had no idea. There was no information anywhere on any website, on the embassy site or anywhere, so I just happened to find that, and so I contacted them, and I was able to book my flight. So that's one example of some of the issues that I found answers to just by pure luck, or by the grace of God, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It was all
serendipity.
It all fell in place finally. Yeah. And so the I don't want to go into too much detail, but there is a sequence that things need to happen, and the document that I put together, it's probably the most comprehensive document that you'll find for a person in my particular situation, who has a Thai national wife who is seeking an immigrant O visa, a non-immigrant O visa for spousal, my particular situation. And the information that I put in there, it'll probably cover most of the people who are seeking to move to Thailand during this particular time. I'm sure things will open up in the future. In fact, I've heard some movement as far as allowing people to come in under different circumstances. So I'm sure things will change, but the general process right now for this month and possibly next month are contained in the document that I provided.
Yeah, your document's a lot more detailed than the little infographic that they put on the websites and stuff. Right, it's like 4 steps, and I'm telling you. What was the biggest hurdle? I think one of them was the COVID-19 test 72 hours before you were going to leave. That was going to be a challenge for you, or you were worried about whether that would come back within the time frame.
Yeah, I tell you, I had a couple sleepless nights on that one, but the getting the health insurance took the longest because it has to go into underwriting, and there's several forms you have to fill out. There's a lot of back and forth. They have to do a lot of checks, and so that took the longest. So that's the first thing on the list. So that took a little long.
And you got that through Pacific Cross, correct?
Pacific Cross, and that was the contact that you provided. So I did provide his information in the document, so you can literally click on the link that I provided and literally email him if you want to get health insurance through Pacific Cross. If that's for people who don't have the proper health insurance or enough health insurance, but they can get it through there. And it was reasonable for my age and everything, so I was happy with that. But there's booking your flight was number 2. Reserving your alternate state, it's called a ASQ, alternate state quarantine hotel. I provided a link to a list of hotels that are approved by the government to book with. And I also provided the information about the hotel that I'm staying at now, which I'd recommend. And then there's several documents that you need to prepare to upload to the form online at the Washington D.C. Embassy, which I provided a link to each of the forms, and also to the embassy itself. And then filling out the form, which is step 1, and then step 2 is receiving the go-ahead to send in your passport into the LA consulate, because once your form is submitted to the Washington, D.C., that data is then transferred over to the Los Angeles consulate, and you'll be dealing with them going forward to get your visa for your passport. And then the most important and the most stressful part of the whole process was getting the Fit to Fly certificate and the COVID-19 PCR test. And what I found out by talking to someone at the embassy is that they don't accept certificates at the airport unless it says Fit to Fly medical certificate on it. So what I did, because I was in a small town, and the clinic I went to, they don't have certificates there. They didn't even know what I was talking about. So what I did is I went to some websites and I got some samples of what the certificates look like, and I actually created one in Word, and I downloaded the logo from the clinic I was going to, and I put it right in the header, and I printed that out in color, and I took it to the clinic, and they didn't even say a word about it. They just filled it right out, and so I had my certificate. And it's basically asking questions, you know, do you have a sore throat? How's your health? They take your blood pressure, they take your, you know, the regular stuff. It's just a basic physical. It's a pretty minor detail, but filling out a certificate. And what's important is that the date and the time has to be within the 72-hour period of your departure. So
same like the COVID-19 results.
Right, exactly. And so I had to make sure that the time they wrote down that I was in that clinic during the time within the 72-hour period. So I went to an urgent care clinic because you can literally just walk in, and then I walked in the morning and I was able to get a doctor right away, as opposed to going into a hospital or making an appointment in a hospital, right, which doesn't work. So the urgent care clinic is what I'd recommend going to, and a PA, a physician's assistant, they can fill out the certificate and sign it, because that's the credentials that they need. And then the same clinic I went to, they gave me the PCR test, and I did it on a Thursday, and I needed the results back by between Friday at 2 p.m. or Sunday, because I was actually flying from this little town to Seattle to catch my repatriation flight. So I took this COVID test, and I started getting really nervous because I was getting conflicting information from different lab techs and the nurses. They said, well, it takes 24 to 72 hours. And another person said it takes several days. I said, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to make it. So I ended up driving out to Salt Lake. I was staying in Utah. I drove out to Salt Lake, and I got another PCR test the next day. And
where did you get that one?
That was at a Walgreens, and it's
I wanted to mention that because
now,
go ahead and tell us your situation with how Walgreens handled that.
Yeah, so that happened to be a real great find, because there are several Walgreens scattered around the nation that do the specific PCR test.
How did you know to look for Walgreens as a place to do a test?
I went to a website, and I don't remember where it was, but I believe it was on Walgreens, and you can actually type in the state that you want to get the COVID test in, and they will show you the specific Walgreens within that state that perform the PCR test. Cool. And basically, and then what you do is you have to fill out a questionnaire. Do you have a temperature, and basically the same questions that everybody asks everywhere, sore throat, temperature, and that kind of stuff. And then once you put in your answers and you click the button, basically you can't have any symptoms if you're going to take the test. Mm-hmm. I guess that's what they're at. So anyway, I passed their little test, and so I was able to go to the next step, which was to schedule an appointment, which is a drive-up appointment. You basically drive up to the window, and then it's a swab that goes into your nose. And I think it's your nose and I think it's just your nose. But anyway, so it was a very simple test, not a big deal. You don't have to stick it way up your nose. It wasn't the the one that hurts. Where you got to stay away.
Wasn't the one that went in your brain, huh?
Yeah, he goes. Yeah, I didn't get a lobotomy, so it was very simple. And then I happened to get those tests 24 hours later. They said 24 to 72, but it was very, very fast. So I ended up using that one.
How did you get the result of the test?
They provide you, Walgreens provides you a link to a app that you can download, and it's to the actual lab that does the testing.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can download the app, and then you register, and then once the results come back, you can actually download them right from there and print them out. And not only that, but Walgreens sends you an email link that you click on, and you can download the results that way. So there's two ways to download the results. So I ended up using those lab results because they were within the timeline that I needed, and so I was pretty much all set. So
let me ask you a question before you continue. I don't want to interrupt, but it
sure.
was important because you're on the road. You're already headed to where you need to go. This wasn't in your town, right? The Walgreens, or it was?
Correct. It was. Yeah. Well,
or it was in Salt Lake City.
It was in Salt Lake City. I drove down. I live in Minneapolis. I drove to Montana. I stayed there for a week with some friends, and then I drove down to Utah to stay with my daughter for the remaining week that I was going to be in the States. And so I decided to get my testing done in Utah, obviously. And she lives in a little town called Vernal, and so I ended up driving 3.5 hours away to Salt Lake to get the second test, because that Walgreens was the only Walgreens in the state that did, the PCR test. A lot of them do the, the quickie COVID test, but those aren't accepted by the airlines, and so you have to get the PCR test, and it has to say PCR right in the testing results.
Yeah, James in Hawaii, United now is using these quicker tests at the airport before you get on the flight, and allowing Hawaii to accept those, so people don't have to go into quarantine if they don't test positive. Right. They can go ahead and start their vacation, and they're actually trying to do that as I think it's International Airline Consortium or something is trying to get every airline and country to accept those. So we'll see what happens going forward. How did you print out your test? I mean, the result.
I had a printer, and so my daughter has had a printer, so I just had her print those out. But you can take them. You can probably take them if you don't have access to printer. You can take them almost anywhere, right? Like,
is anything open anymore? Like when I lived there in the United States, we had Kinko's and stuff like that. I don't even know if these places are in existence anymore.
Oh yeah, FedEx, Kinko's, they're open. You can take them there, and Office Max, any place that does printing. They're in the larger cities. They're everywhere, so that's not much of a problem.
So when you got to the airport, what did you have to show the airline to board the flight?
Let's see. Let me look at my list here. I have it right. I have my actual document up here, so I don't forget anything. You're fit to fly, your certificate, your the PCR lab results, your medical insurance policy showing that you have the coverage that Thailand requires. Of course, your passport. And another ID like a driver's license, and your COE, which is the certificate of entry, and the certificate of entry is issued by the Los Angeles Thai consulate. When you send them your passport, and they start processing your visa, it goes into the visa processing department team, and they will email you your certificate of entry.
And that has to be printed out as well.
So you'll need to print that out too. And
this all goes at the check-in counter? You produce all these documents to the people at the check-in counter?
Yeah, and they they go through all the documents. They make sure everything's in order. They look at make sure the PCR test is PCR, make sure the fit to fly certificate is fit to fly medical certificate, everything, every little detail they go through. It went smooth. It was very organized, and so I was.
Did you have to put on a full body condom to get on the plane, or?
No,
no, no, just a mask.
Just a mask. Yeah, that's it. And had to wear a mask during the whole flight, except when you're eating or, you know.
Okay, yeah. Cool. And then when you arrived in Thailand and you got out, you were greeted with the hazmat units.
Yeah, it was like a science fiction movie.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm not exaggerating. It was really crazy. Yeah, it was very, very different from other times I've flown to Thailand.
Amazing.
And yeah, you heard it, and you go through checkpoint after checkpoint, line after line, and they check, double check, triple check. It's pretty massive. I'll have to say it's but what I do have to say was very well organized. It went very smoothly for me. There's one person who mentioned, I got to talking to him. He said that they didn't have his name on one of the lists, so they had to make a phone call or do some back checking or so forth. But for me, it was most of the people, probably 99% of the people, was very, very smooth, very, very well organized, and but it was just a very sterile environment with police everywhere. You felt like you were literally in a very hazardous zone, and you were treated like you've been infected or something. So
yeah, it's bizarre. The whole thing is bizarre.
It was bizarre. It was very bizarre.
Well, I'm happy that you made it and that you were able to jump all the hurdles to get over here. And I'm sure your experience and your instructions will help a lot of people that are waiting to get over. And hopefully some of this will be changing now. They're talking about trying to change it from 14 days to 7 days. And I think there's a lot of information, there's a movement throughout the world now to address the actual statistics as opposed to the fear of the number of cases based on testing. And so hopefully in the near future, a lot of this will change, and they'll be opening up all countries to be able to get back to a semi-normal life. You know, it's just like after 9/11, though, some things never went back to normal after that. Our whole world changed. And this is one of those things, I think a lot of things will continue even after the whole thing is over. And I think there'll be, precautions in place, and in case something like this ever happened again, even though the data is actually sort of showing that it was a little bit overreacting on this, but
it was highly overreacted. The CDC came out with a report saying that instead of 200,000 deaths, there was only like 9,000. It's just
it didn't have comorbidities and stuff. And when you look at excess deaths and things like that, it really does play out that this was an overreaction and it wasn't really something to worry about. But what could prompt more fear coming into the winter months is there's a spike every winter in flu deaths and things like that. And so because the death counts is really especially excess deaths. But hopefully they'll look at excess deaths as opposed to just the number of deaths increasing during a flu season and not panic from that, and if it's within the normal range. But anyway, Brad, I want to thank you for this. I'm sure that a lot of people will find it helpful, and it was great it's the first time we've seen each other face to face here. And again, thanks a lot for all your information and your help, and I'm glad I could play a small part in this. And when you get out of your imprisonment, quarantine, then we'll be hooking up face to face. So thanks for your help, and
looking forward to that. Thank you.
Right. Take care and hang in there. It won't be long. How many more days now?
Let's see. This is the 10th day, so I have today and then 4 more days.
Well, take care, hang in there, and don't forget to wear your mask.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Okay.
Hey, JC here. If you like that video, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel here. Also, we have another video up here you're going to be really interested in watching as well. And if you're looking for all the details of how to retire in Thailand in one place, plus a group of people to support you, check this out over here. Give it a click.